Jennifer Butler, community leader here at Divorce Force, and we are at the offices of Worthy today. And we are going to be talking about socializing as a me and doing things on your own after divorce, which really is a totally different experience for everybody, as you're going to see. Some people, it's completely like exhilarating and exciting, and other people, it is downright terrifying. So either way, it can get tricky, right? If you have kids, there's finding places to put the kids so you can go out, confusion about where to go, being alone and what to do. What do you do with your hands when you're by yourself at a bar?
How to do it.
So there's all these things that, you have to sort of think about, and it can sometimes get you to a place where you're like, forget it, I'm going to put on my PJs and I'm going to binge on Netflix. So we don't want you guys doing that anymore. We want you to join us in the awkwardness and have some fun with us. So I have awesome guests here today. We're going to talk about what it's like for us, kind of some of the things that we've done, some of the things we've learned, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun with this. So I have Gregory Frank here with me.
Hi.
CEO of Divorce Force and father of 14-year-old twins
today. Yep. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yep.
Maura Enright, she is a sales manager for RTBIQ, and she's a divorced mom of 2 children that she describes as her motivation and her heart.
Thank you.
And Monica Barak, who was married for 20 years, and after her divorce, she decided to take a gap year and redefine her life. And you guys are going to find out what that means in just a minute. So, like I said, the process looks different for everyone. So let's just start there. Like, you're all of a sudden you're me. What is the thought of going out, alone? What is that like for you? Who wants to start? Let's have you start.
Okay. I know that was happening. For me in particular, I didn't really have such a hard time with going out alone, but there were some things that I definitely did not do. I did not go to the typical restaurants that I went to when I was married. Right? I didn't want to be put back into the same situation where I was going to run into other couples that I knew from my married life and then feel uncomfortable. So I didn't want to put myself in a position where the location that I was at was either going to evoke feelings that I didn't want to think about anymore, but I wanted to be in a place that was new and fresh and happy. So it wasn't hard to remove those 5 or 6 restaurants and take those off the list.
Yeah.
But I think it really depends on who you are and what your lifestyle looks like, because if you've been married for a while, you have a certain routine. There are probably certain places that you go to frequently. And I think it's important to kind of break away from that and go to new things. Either join a different gym, go to different restaurants, go to different bars, join different organizations, get out of that pattern.
Yeah, and like you said, the couples thing. I think that's the one that kind of gets people all freaked out. You show up and it's like all couple friends, and that is enough to put you in this oh my God, what am I doing? I gotta go home.
You have to answer the same question 32 times in one night.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So for me, I decided I just wanted to sell the house, sell all my belongings, and have a gap year. My high school age son, he wanted to have a gap year. I said, not you. It's my year. So my 3 kids went off to college. And I took a gap year, and I imagined all the things that I wanted to do in my life, like become a yoga instructor, invest in real estate, be a developer, find out if I wanted to live on the West Coast or the East Coast. I rented within the year 4 different apartments, one on the West Coast. And
very jealous right now.
I know. I think we all want to take a gap year.
Had great experiences. Became a yoga instructor. I bought 6 properties.
Were you nervous? Like the idea of it?
Totally. And I would say my advice is embrace the fear, because you're going to feel that fear, and when you feel it, just go for it. And don't think. It's like jumping into cold water.
Right.
You
immerse
yourself, but it's invigorating when you come out.
You have to own it. You just have to own the experience, right? And dive in with 2 feet. I think that's amazing. Good for you.
And I think that fear, yours was taking a gap year. That's a big thing. But sometimes just going to a bar by yourself can evoke the same fear. So even if you're not taking a gap year and you're just trying to go to dinner by yourself, embrace that fear.
Absolutely.
How about for you?
Well, mine was more of everyday places and just going to my daughter's school play and showing up and realizing, oh, everyone here is a couple, or with grandparents and kids, and I just this one time I ended up all by myself. It wasn't something that was it was a midweek play, so it was like, okay, get her to the play, and here I am. And then I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one alone? Like, is anybody alone?
Stressful, definitely a stressful environment.
But I feel like I worked through it because at first I was wishing I forced my son to come with me. And then
how old is he?
He was 12 at the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There you go. Bring your 12-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Bring the date.
Yeah. So, but then I saw all the kids fidgeting, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad my son's not with me. And I really enjoyed the play. Like, I read the program. I just enjoyed the moment.
Yeah.
And I realized that people didn't care I was alone.
So that was your first outing?
That was just my first, like, oh my gosh, I'm not like everybody else.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point. I think that you're bringing up is, I think a lot of people when they're put into that situation, it's maybe one of the first couple of times that they're alone, such as a school play. I think we probably put more thought into it as to what other people are thinking, rather than what those people are actually thinking, because they've got their own things going on in their lives.
Exactly.
They're not so focused on what's happening to us.
Exactly.
Our situation may have been a topic of conversation for a couple of nights at their dinner table, but after that, it's there's somebody else taking that spot. So I think a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves, where they go out and they feel, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. I can't walk into that room. I'm alone. There is an adjustment period, but I think we make it worse than it probably really is. Right?
I think
absolutely
Will Smith, did anyone see that? He did this whole talk about how we spend so much more time in our heads thinking about and worrying, and then like when you actually do it, it's like 5 seconds of it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like the actual experience is like this big, but what we make of it beforehand is like
almost like preparing for a Facebook Live.
Yeah, exactly. Does anyone remember their first outing?
I can't remember my first outing, but
I was wondering if anyone was scarred.
I can remember, my first time, like, thinking about it, like, oh, you know what, that was really fun. I went to a bar with one of my friends, and it was a last-minute thing, which I'm good at last minute. That's actually how I do it.
This way you don't think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and we sat at the bar, which is not something I would ever normally do, but we just sat at the bar and we had fun, like the whole night. And we realized while we were driving home, we're like, wow, that was a lot of fun. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
And it was
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went out to eat by myself, and I had gone out to eat for like lunch and things like that. You book, you have your props. I was like, I'm going out to eat. I'm gonna like dress up and I'm gonna go out and like take myself out to a date to dinner. Like, so I got dressed up and I wasn't allowed my phone. I wasn't allowed a book. Like I had to just be there in the space on a date with myself. It was the hardest, like, first 15 minutes to get through. Like, I didn't know what to do with my hands. I thought everyone was staring. Like, all of this stuff, it's so funny, it goes through your head, but I had a really good time. It was like a moment. Like, I was like, okay, if I can do that, I can do a lot of things,
I find that it's really good to throw yourself into experiences, and you feel very fearful at first. I mean, I decided I wanted to try writing, so I enrolled in a writers conference, and I went there, and I couldn't relate to anyone because I didn't understand anything about this whole business. But at the end, I came out of it with a wonderful new friend who's a writer, and like once a week we get together and we write. And I was terrified going into this conference, so I say just go for it and throw yourself into experiences.
What was the first thing you did? So you decided to take a gap year. What was your first sort of adventure or
So my first
thing?
adventure was I decided to become a yoga instructor, so I enrolled in a course which was a month away. And most of the enrollees were in their 20s or 30s, and here's a 50-year-old woman, and I thought, like, I don't belong here at all. And I was very fearful, and I didn't know if physically I could keep up with them because there were 12-hour days of doing yoga and instruction.
That sounds exhausting.
For a month. And I did it, and I kept up with the youngsters, and I made lots of friends. And in fact, I made one friend, another woman who was in her 50s, was from Ireland, and she was divorced. And when I went out to rent my place in California, I stayed there for 4 months, and then she flew out and she drove cross country with me.
Wow.
So you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Who you meet and where the experience will lead you, and you grow from all these experiences.
To that point, when you're talking about going out for the first time or in the very beginning, I think it's important that if you're having these feelings of, oh my God, I can't go out by myself, I'm going to look so silly, or whatever you're thinking, you're probably best off going to a place and sitting at a bar or at a community table. So this way you're not sitting at a table all by yourself. That might be a good way to kind of take that first step, right? So, if you go and you actually have dinner sitting at the bar, there's other people and there's a bartender.
Yeah.
So if you get to the point where you have to talk to somebody, there's somebody there you can talk to.
And take those props at first, right?
Yeah,
like if you want to
100%.
bring a book, it's totally fine, and go out by yourself or whatever. Don't be afraid to use the props.
And I've noticed there's often many people who sit there alone.
Yeah.
Now that I sometimes go by myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there with they ate their dinner, they speak to the bartender.
So if you're going out for the first time and you walk in and you see somebody else that's alone, why don't you try to sit closer to that person?
Engage in
just
conversation.
to strike up a conversation, and this way you don't feel so removed from everybody.
We're not
There was a
freaks.
restaurant close to where I lived when I first started to go through the divorce. I used to go there on Monday nights, and I would have dinner by myself because I would work late. And then I would go and I would sit down, and I ended up knowing all the bartenders and the waitresses.
Yeah.
The place was great, and then I would strike up I went out of my way to strike up conversations with people, whether they were by themselves or other couples. You never know who they know. Maybe they know somebody that's single, that's looking, to date somebody, or maybe they know somebody that's divorced, or you never know who you're going to meet. So if you put a little bit of effort into it, you can end up leaving and saying to yourself, wow, that really wasn't so bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So we put up a question on our Facebook page this week saying, how has socializing been for you since the divorce? And that was really an effort to get you guys all watching engaged in our conversation here, and just to kind of get an idea for how it's been for everybody. And it was really interesting to read and see, because a lot of people are having a hard time, and they're sort of like a deer in headlights. And the answer to that is usually, I just stay home. I just stay home. I don't go out. I work. I come home. I don't talk to anybody.
Not a good pattern.
So let's talk to them, though, because there's a lot of them out there, and it doesn't feel good. For sure, they don't feel good that way. So let's talk to them. Like, what are some hurdles you had to get over that they can relate to, and we can kind of help them through?
Going out, getting out of the house.
But how do you get out? Like, so what?
Okay, I have a great suggestion. Meetup.com. Any of your interests, you can go on and you can do it with other like-minded people, and you'll meet great people. They're single, married, it doesn't matter, but you're doing something you feel passionate about, and you'll make new friends. I've met so many new friends through Meetup, playing the guitar or going for walks, hiking.
And Meetup has everything, right? From
Meetup
like
has
art
everything.
to hiking to any sort of category that
That's
you can
great.
think
If you have an affinity or a passion to something, you can find organizations. But another good idea is if you're going home after work and you're sitting on your couch and you're on your computer, right? You're just sitting there watching TV. Why not go to a local Starbucks or a coffee shop and do the same thing that you would do at home? You can put on your headphones if you really need to, and you can browse the internet and do all the things that you normally would do at home. Just do it someplace else. Get into a pattern of not sitting on your couch all night. And just by going out, and even if you go to the Starbucks and you don't talk to anybody, you're surrounded by people.
Right.
And just being around other people, you'll feel better. You won't feel alone. And I think that's, well, you just hit on it. Negative energy of sitting home by yourself is really dangerous.
Very
so
dangerous.
Break the mold and just, some of the health clubs, some of the gyms have common areas where you can get a coffee, right?
Or a juice. And
so I'm a big fan of, when you're going through a divorce, I'm a huge fan of going to the gym. I think it's a great place to relieve stress, and if you look good, you feel good, get rid of that unwanted energy, and really focus on who you are. So when you're ready to start dating again, you'll look pretty good by going to the gym. But a lot of them have really great cafes. So bring your laptop, sit at the cafe, and then you'll start to talk to other people that are at the gym too.
Yeah.
Those are little maneuvers that you can make, which can be really helpful.
Yeah. And like a big thing would be traveling, because when you travel, especially for business, you're alone anyway. So it's like you almost have another reason to be out and alone. Oh, because I'm traveling. Well, what are you doing?
Yeah, and also take one of your children and travel with your child and have that special one-on-one time, and
That
which
would be
is
very
just so much fun to do,
Yeah.
and gives you something to look forward to.
Yeah, and so there's big things you can do like traveling. There's these middle steps, and then there's, like Greg said, these little steps like do exactly what you're doing at home, but do it around people, and then you'll start to build up momentum, right? To do some of these other things. So what are some other things? Let's just throw out ideas, because a lot of the feedback was, I don't even know what to do. And the other feedback, a lot of people got socializing confused with dating. So they're different.
Major.
They're different.
Completely separate.
Socializing and dating are totally separate. Socializing is for you. It's about you doing the things you enjoy. Maybe it's about making friends. It's totally different than dating. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what are some things?
Anything that's in a group, right?
Okay.
So if you like to read, there are library groups you can go to.
Yes.
If you're into fitness, there are different group activities you can take at a gym.
Or
right?
hiking and running
Exactly.
out.
If you
running
like to
clubs.
cook, there are cooking schools everywhere that are all grouped. And a lot of times, if you go to the local library, they have bulletin boards that have all the different organizations and clubs that meet. You can also get involved in a charity. There are so many great charities out there that hold events all year long, and you can get on a committee. And then before you know it, every other week you have committee meetings. So I mean, there are
Those are great
lots.
things.
There are lots of things that you can do that don't take a lot. Doesn't take a lot to get there. You just have to kind of know where to start. And if you have a passion, if you have something that's been driving you your whole life, if there is an activity or a sport, or if you like to play backgammon or a card game, shuffleboard.
Curling.
There's actually a couple of really cool shuffleboard places in New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's curling in Brooklyn.
Is there really?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Let me know how that goes.
I've heard of pickleball.
Yeah.
Anybody heard of
No.
pickleball? I don't know exactly what it is. I just heard it's getting popular.
Pickleball.
And another thing that I think is important too is you have to take a look and understand what are the places that are going to upset you. What are the places that are going to bring back those feelings, that were
Triggers.
triggers that were
Triggers,
negative in your
yeah.
marriage, or if you want to continue to move forward and you don't want to take a step backwards, you should really understand and say, these are the places I'm going to avoid.
Right. Which is okay.
In my personal divorce, I've come really 360 with my ex-wife. We're on great terms right now, and we effectively co-parent our children together. But there were times in the beginning where it was very hostile, and I made it a point to avoid certain situations because I knew that if I put myself in that situation, I may not have the outcome that I truly want. So I would just remove myself from the situation. I think sometimes we need to use that same methodology when you're moving on with your new life.
Absolutely. And you want to
right?
build momentum. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. You want
No.
to set yourself up for success.
You don't want to take a step back.
Yeah, and so you do that by starting small, by doing exactly what Greg said. Don't go to your restaurant where you celebrated every anniversary for the last 15 years.
And all of your married couple friends are there on Thursday nights.
Right.
Set
yourself up.
I'm just
for
going to sit at the bar.
success. Yeah, and cry. Because we've all done that. But set yourself up for success.
You can make new friends who are also divorced. And what I liked to do at the beginning was I'd invite everyone over for a potluck dinner, and we would talk about our issues.
That's a great idea.
And
Yeah, that is.
it was really enjoyable, and I made great friends. I've made more friends since my divorce than at any point in my life.
So did you create a divorce group, or were these friends of yours who were
I-
also getting
I
divorced?
slowly met people who were divorced,
Uh-huh.
and then I would just invite them over for a dinner. Just bring a salad and bring some wine.
Yeah.
And we'd end up hanging out all evening. No one wanted to leave.
Right,
It was
right.
so bonding.
Oh, that's
So I
awesome.
actually did something very similar. When I was first starting to go through my divorce, I had met a couple of people here in the city that were going through basically the same stage that I was. And we had two rules. The first was you're not allowed to talk negatively about your ex or soon to be ex. And number two, we had to keep it positive. So even if there were things that were upsetting or there were situations like not seeing your children as much, we still needed to be a little bit more positive and provide that positivity, the reassurance, as opposed to having a pity party.
Well, maybe
Yes.
that's because you're men, because women really like to.
That's a good point. That could be possible.
Like to
I
talk
can't.
about
I
how
can't debate that fact.
Yeah. We should have gotten
But
the two groups together. That
yeah,
would be
hey,
very
listen, you never know. You
interesting.
never know. But at the end of the day, you want people to leave
because
feeling good.
You don't want to just
Yeah.
join each other in the pity party and kind of leave.
But we
pulling
felt
each
better
other down.
after
Yeah.
talking about everything that was on our minds.
I think there's absolutely a
Sure.
balance. Like, vent,
Balance,
getting it out.
yes,
Women
vent,
do. We need
yeah.
to get it out.
And I found, I go to a cookie swap, so cookies really help.
Cookie swap.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
sounds
where everybody
like
brings
fun.
all
Brings
the different
cookies.
cookies. And
Where are the cookies?
I
I see fruit. I don't see any
Cookie
cookies.
swap.
Where are the cookies?
it is. It's a Christmas miracle every year.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, it is snowing outside.
I
Or it was yesterday.
Spring snow.
Yeah.
So, okay, so when you actually get there, right? So I said this at the beginning, you're standing there, it's like when sometimes you don't even know what to do with your hands. Like, am I supposed to put one hand, so, what are things people can do or ways that they can make themselves feel comfortable once they're out?
Well, I think, depending on the situation that you're in, when I would go out to places where I know I would be meeting up with people that knew me, and sometimes might, ask questions about how things are going on or what's going on, the why did you get divorced question.
Yeah.
I just would always have a certain phrase ready to just...
That's a great one.
Yeah, just have a prepared phrase so I didn't go off on anything and go, oh, why did I say that?
Yeah. So that's a great point, to have your go-to sentences.
Exactly. That's a better
What
way
you're
of
going to
saying
say.
it. Yeah.
How you're going to answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then when you go out, you're like, okay, I'm ready.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You probably want to, also think about kind of the mental state that you're in when you're going out, right? So if you could put yourself in a position where you're more relaxed, right? If you're more relaxed, maybe go to the gym right before you go out, or take a long shower just to kind of put you in a more relaxing state.
Meditate.
That could help, yeah, for sure.
Deep breathing.
Mhm.
I think we have a question.
We have an audience question from Melissa. I think your existing network of friends want to help you transition. Can you speak to that?
Oh,
Your existing network of friends
Yeah,
that
I
want to
would
help
say-
you transition.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It really is, and I can tell you, I wanted to jump in just because one of my friends was so supportive, and one that I thought might be, oh, you're getting divorced, but she was one of the most supportive people when it all was coming down. I'm like, oh,
I think that's a great comment, actually, because I think sometimes we get in our own heads and think our friends aren't going to know how to deal with us, and we don't give them the chance to support us. And so being open to, what do you need? How do you feel? What do you need? How can you be my friend, and let them give, let them be there for you.
Actually, when I felt really down at the beginning, I sent out an email to all my friends and said, I really need you now. Reach out to me. 'Cause
You're
sometimes
amazing.
People are just involved in their own lives.
Yeah.
So, and they all contacted me. I was overwhelmed with
wonderful.
love. And there's no problem with hanging out with married couples and being the third wheel. I mean, they
That's right.
I'm a great
you,
third wheel.
You feel taken care of. They
Yeah.
embrace you. So I found a lot of comfort in being with
It's
my
a
married
wonderful
friends.
thing, and I think that if you are the friend and you have somebody close to you going through a divorce, you have to really be careful about what you do and what you say in order to support that friend, right? You're not a lawyer, you're not a financial analyst. You should be there to be a sounding board and to let the other person speak. It's tough though when you're the friend and somebody really close to you is going through a divorce, especially if you're friends with both sides, because just because somebody's going through a divorce doesn't mean that you have to draw the line in the sand and not be friends with their soon-to-be ex, especially if there's children involved. I would caution the friend to kind of remind themselves that divorces typically go in a circle, and then once they're complete, there are still children around if there are children in the marriage. So, being there to really support that person in a friend capacity as opposed to an advisor is an important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and not being a cheerleader too, right? Like sometimes we can.
Yeah, don't fuel the fire.
Yeah, we don't need, you don't need to fuel the fire. You can let your friends vent, as we were saying. We do like to vent, but then it's like, all right, how you feel now?
Yeah.
All right, let's do something that's going to make you feel good.
And be careful what you say, because if you go too far as the friend and you say things about that person's spouse, and then they come full circle and become friendly again, or whatever the case is, it could put you as the friend in a very uncomfortable position. I've seen it. I've seen it many times, actually, and it's unfortunate. It could be avoided, so be a great friend.
We need our friends.
Yeah, definitely.
And coworkers can become friends.
Yes.
You know, when you
spend a lot of time together.
absolutely.
And family.
That's right.
Forget the family.
Yeah.
Siblings.
There's nothing better than family. So, got to rely on the family.
So that's kind of, my next question was going to be to just chat about like some of the lessons that you've learned about yourself or about life, or just sort of those deeper connections you've made in the process of putting yourself out there. I mean, I imagine you've learned a gazillion with all the adventures you had over the
You
years.
realize that getting older doesn't mean that you don't have any life ahead of you. You can be like a child, and you can learn new things and make new friends and stay physically fit and to rediscover life.
Mm-hmm.
That was
and reinvent yourself. So, don't just embrace. I'd say embrace the fear and just go for it.
That's
that
right.
was a lot of the comments on the
Great.
post where, I'm too old.
No.
There was a few
You
people.
will lose your youthful beauty, perhaps, but you get an inner beauty if you continue to develop yourself.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I totally agree. I mean, my life went for a complete 180, due to my divorce. I switched careers at the exact same time. And I haven't looked back. I mean, life has, it's been almost this renewed energy. It's been a whole new path. And I just can't believe the position I'm in today compared to where I was when, unfortunately, the marriage was breaking down, right? So it's hard to kind of see clearly and see ahead and see yourself in a much better position when you're dealing with so much stress. Depending on everybody's different situation, people go through different trajectories in their divorce. Some people can, end it amicably, and other times it's, it could be 3 to 4 years of, some serious litigation. So looking back, I would have never imagined having the life that I have today when I was going through it. So you just got to keep your blinders on sometimes, and you just have to continue to make progress every single day. Carve out everything that's negative in your life and really focus on the positives.
And it's all right to be sad sometimes, or
Yeah.
be depressed.
Feel the pain.
And,
You have to feel the
don't
pain
think it's
and
going to
move
last
forward.
forever. It's
Yeah.
going to go in waves, and
Yeah.
the sadness makes you grow,
That's
because
right.
then you appreciate the good
That's
times.
right. And before you know it, you'll wake up one day and you'll be in such a better
And
place.
you might feel actually happy.
Yeah, it happens faster than you can imagine.
Joyful.
I think that's a good point, though, when you're willing to feel the pain, when you're willing to let yourself really feel how much it hurts,
But in
'cause
this-
it does.
In this society, we're not supposed to feel pain.
Exactly.
We're supposed to be happy.
supposed to be
How are you?
positive.
Everything's
Exactly.
great. Sometimes things are not
Right.
great, and that's all right.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
And then when you let yourself do that, that's when you're able to move forward.
I think we should talk about the pain for a minute, though, because there's all
Yeah.
different sorts of pain. And I'm not just talking about the pain of, some people when they're in the marriage and then they're going into a divorce, they're in pain because, let's say, their spouse is leaving them. So that's one type of pain. There's another type of pain where, you're used to being with somebody and always having somebody around, and now you're living alone. But, the other pain is if you have children, one day you see your kids in the morning, you see them when they get off the bus, you see them at night, and then the next thing you know, you're going days without seeing your children. You're on a schedule, right? So for me, that was by far, clear and away, the most painful part of my divorce, was not being able to see my kids every day. So, there's an adjustment period, and when I first started to go through it, I would have never realized that 4, 5, 6 years down the road, now that I look back, the time that I have is such quality time,
Yeah.
and the experiences are so immense that at the time, that pain, you have to feel it, so then this way you can appreciate the time that you have
through it,
moving
yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
So,
I feel exactly the same way when I'm with my kids and when they go. But when I'm with my kids, I'll remember, oh my gosh, wait, tomorrow, they're not going to be here. So rather than, why didn't you clear that plate? It's okay, let's play a game, let's do something. Like, it's good quality time.
yeah. Listen, don't get me wrong. In the very beginning, I was very upset when they weren't with me for a weekend.
Yes.
But now I'm like, weekend.
Oh yeah,
I got a weekend
that
coming
too.
up.
And that's the thing, like, take you're not going to be with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's painful. You need to process through that. But the reality is, they are not going to be with you if you have any sort of split custody.
Yep.
So with that time, you might as well do something for yourself.
That's right.
And make yourself happy and embrace some joy so that you can really be the best parent you can be when you do have them.
That is such a great thing to say because it's the truth.
Yeah.
Right? If you're miserable every day and you can't get out of your own head, and then your kids come over and you're
Right.
miserable towards
They don't
them,
want that.
then they don't want to come see
They
you.
want a
And
happy
that's
parent.
right. That is that is a horrible situation.
For
You're gonna have a hard time getting out of it. So, do things for yourself when you're not with your children so you are in the best head possible. And you're
Right.
going to perform better at work. You're going to perform better. What about your new relationships? Right?
Right.
Are you going to show up on a first date miserable? No, you're going to do your best to prop yourself up and, be the best person you could be at that time. You have to do the same thing with the kids.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, so take advantage of that
Yeah.
time by doing things for you. And so back to that point I was saying before, a lot of people, when I posed this question, automatically went to dating. So let's just talk about this a little bit because it's very different. And in my opinion, you really need to be able to socialize and find what you enjoy and figure out what your new normal is before you even think about dating. And one of the ways you can do that is by socializing as a me.
that's right.
I agree.
I'm not sure if mani-pedis count as socializing.
Pennies count, spas count.
Excellent. That was my next question. Spas.
Well, because mani-pedi, like, instead of sitting with the well, you can if you want to sit with the magazine, but there are people next to you.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is say, hi, how's your day? You
Now,
know?
they may look up at you like
And
you're
be like,
crazy
leave
for
me alone
speaking.
because I want to read my magazine. but
There's always that too,
okay.
but at least you went for it, right?
Yeah, you can practice getting rejected.
It's actually
Process
pretty
all
funny.
of that.
Yeah, and getting back to the dating, you really can't. It's best that you work on yourself first and figure out what you want
Yeah.
before you start dating. Otherwise, you're going to end up having a relationship with the wrong type of person.
You know what? But you can also go out with the attitude of I'm just gonna enjoy myself tonight. I'm gonna go out and have a nice dinner, and like you were saying, whether it's a date or it's not a date or you're by yourself, whatever the case is,
whatever it is.
you don't have to go out and pre-plan the next 6 months of your life. Just go. Being not home is the first step, right? So just getting out and being
Getting out.
social, it's so important. It really is.
And I'm thinking as we're sitting here laughing, don't take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
You know, we take ourselves so seriously and we don't need to. Just kind of laugh. If you walk in and you fall and trip, your first outing in front of everybody,
Yeah.
it's all right.
It's not that big of a
It's
deal.
entrance.
It's just not that big of
And
a
it's
deal.
a great
Right.
story.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's a great story for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, what are some benefits of kind of, so we get in this headspace of, well, now I'm a me, and you start to remember and reminisce, and all you can remember is all the wonderful things about being the part of a couple. So, what are some of the wonderful things about being a single and social?
I love just making the decisions. Whatever I decide goes, and then I get to do it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
No negotiating.
Exactly. So I feel empowered, and I like that.
I
a
like
lot.
that. Yeah, that's a good one. Anyone else?
You're
with
the
some
you're
benefits?
the author of your life.
Exactly.
You have
Yeah.
freedom to do whatever you can dream of doing.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's not a matter of whether or not you're single. I think it's about who you become post-divorce, right? So there are people that go through a divorce and very quickly they're in another relationship. Maybe that relationship had started prior, or maybe somebody goes through a divorce and they're single for a while. I think what we're really talking about is the headspace that you're in, because that's really the it's a critical component. It's a very specific time in your post-divorce life where you feel comfortable enough to go out by yourself. You feel comfortable enough to own your decisions, right? And to be the better you. To go to the health club by yourself and join these groups and take the cooking classes. So I think it's all up here.
Yeah,
I think it
it
all
is.
resides in your head. And I would just always tell people to keep in the back of their mind, nobody cares. They really don't care as much as you think, that outside of family and close friends.
Right.
But people just don't care. They've got their own lives. They're not so
They're not
fixated
thinking, right.
on you. So snap out of it. Just make today the day that you're going to make a little bit of an adjustment to your schedule and just own it.
And that's a benefit
Yeah.
of, being,
being
on
single.
your own, because
That's right.
you can
Or alone.
do that. You can, or alone. You
Yeah.
can do that at any moment in your day. You can be like, you know what? I'm going to do
Yeah.
this instead of this.
That's
Or-
right.
So
You don't have to clear with anybody.
yeah, exactly. And you get the other thing that I noticed is my mistakes, they're just mine.
Yeah.
Like nobody else is affected now. So I don't have to worry, if I make a mistake when I'm out, that this person is going to be, it's my mistake. And so I can fall on my face as happily and merrily as I want to. And I think that is like one of my favorite benefits that I've kind of noticed.
And I do like my alone time. It's not so much that I feel like I'm alone. I feel more like I'm choosing to be by myself and enjoying this moment. And, as much as I like getting out,
Yeah.
I like getting out a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to own the moment too that
Yeah.
I'm in and relax.
Give yourself both.
So that's quality. So if you're on a schedule with your children, so let's just use an every other weekend opportunity, right? So every other weekend you're with your children, you're doing the parenting role. The other weekends you now have this time where you can date, you can, like I keep mentioning, you can go to the health club, you can do activities, you could do your shopping, and you could really keep your weekends full. You could be with your friends, and you're just in a little bit of a different headspace because you're not on the clock based on a parenting schedule, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there are so many benefits all around, but you have to kind of go through it and figure out what's the biggest benefit to you as an individual, and what are the things that you couldn't do before that you're able to do now. I think that's really important for people to understand.
Yeah, and put some. So I think where I was going to go next is for those people who are listening to us and they're like, I am not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I am just scared. I'm not going out. A lot of people get in the story. Well, I work. I don't have time. You get really into this sort of this story, this belief pattern. Be sort of conscious and thoughtful about, like, write a list. If you can't sort of imagine it in your head, get a piece of paper out and write a list of possible things you could do. I could go to Starbucks and sit there for 10 minutes. Maybe that's a big thing at first.
Or not go home. Don't go straight
don't go
home from
home.
work. So if you know that you're going to leave work and you're going to go home and you're going to fall into that same pattern where you're eating dinner, you're on the couch, you're watching Netflix, and then you're on your computer and you're looking at everybody happy on Facebook, right?
You're feeling terrible about
Right,
yourself.
and then you go on. You go on all these
Having
social
a great
media accounts.
time.
You're like, my life is horrible. My friend's base jumping off of a mountain in Peru. And I'm miserable.
Right,
So
right.
just don't put yourself in that position.
That's a trigger.
that
That's
is
a
the
trigger.
that is the first thing to do is stay late at work or go right from work to the Starbucks or take yourself to dinner and sit at the bar.
Or go to a class at night,
do
to lecture.
something.
Yeah.
Do something other than go home.
Right.
Do something other than go home. Make a committed effort not to go straight back home.
Go dancing.
Yeah.
But
Dance
start
classes.
writing these things down so that when you're in the
Yeah.
moment, you're not like,
Have a
I have
plan.
nothing to
Well,
do.
remember,
I'm just
if-
going to go home.
When you're at work, look at the list and say, all right, tonight this is what I'm going to do. Because the minute you walk in the door, shoes are coming off, you're on the couch, food's in the mic.
So plan your
And that's
just
it.
plan your
Yeah.
week on the weekend. Sunday, plan out what you're going to do during the week.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. that's
Put it in your
another great
calendar.
tip.
Put it in your calendar.
Accountability is huge. Tell a friend. If you have a good friend or a sister or somebody who you can be like, this is the commitment I'm making to myself. I'm going to go out 2 nights a week from now on, and I need you to hold me accountable. Because you can pretend yourself away, but when you have somebody being like, okay, did you go out this week? What'd you do? Where'd you go? Then you kind of feel a little that.
Or you can say to
accountability
your
gap.
friend, the good news is now you have to go out twice a week. with
Right,
me.
now you have to go with me.
Your social life is about to get really
Can
good.
make sure that you go with me.
Uh-huh.
But accountability is huge when you're trying to make changes in your life. So tell a friend, or 2, or
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
And get
Invite
together
along.
with old friends that you haven't seen in a while.
Mm.
Make dinner plans or,
Mm-hmm.
or walking buddies. Go walking.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're going to go on Facebook, make it worth it. Reach out to people.
Reach
out
out
to
to-
people that you haven't spoken
That's
to
right,
in a long time.
reconnect.
That's
Yeah, we have a great tool with social media.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Actually,
use it
I
to your benefit.
reconnected with an old boyfriend from when I was like 30 years old, and he got together with me and he introduced me to his ex-girlfriend, and now we're like the best of friends. We just moved,
that's
she got
fantastic.
an apartment, I got an apartment near each other. We talk to each other every day.
That's great.
I
So
hope-
you never
Did
know.
you journal your whole
Some
trip?
of it, some of
Yeah.
that aren't, that's hard.
I think you
yes.
should write a book.
Yeah, definitely.
You really need to write a book.
Well, I have an Instagram, Mom's Gap Year.
Well, it needs to be
Mom's
a book.
Gap Year?
That's a
That's
book.
my
Okay.
Instagram. Jumping into
Okay.
cold water.
We're going to put that back out so everybody can follow that, and we can take a look at your adventures for sure.
Yeah. Book. So anything else? Any other tips, advice, things that we can share with anyone that's listening?
Yeah, let's go around. We'll do one more piece of advice for everybody, and we'll roundtable it.
My thoughts would be go with, the moment and just keep trying to enjoy the moment that you're in, because it really does offer so much, and you might miss it if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And, just instead of feeling like I'm alone, feel like I've chose this. This is what I'm doing now. So this would be nice.
I love that. That reminds me of I get to. So instead of saying like I have to or in front of every sentence, I get to. I get to be alone. I get to have a weekend off. I get to whatever. I get to go, to this awesome conference or whatever it is you're doing. It's not I have to, it's I get to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'd say make a write down your goals for the year and for the future. Write down your physical goals. Write down your mental goals. What classes you want to take. How do you want to grow spiritually? How do you want to grow financially? And then just go for it.
Yeah, make a
and,
plan.
and make it happen.
Yeah. Seeing it's a big
But you have to write down those
Motivator,
goals
yeah.
and check them
Look at it.
every month. See what you've accomplished.
yeah.
I had a vision board.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
wonderful.
smart.
idea.
Boards are
Yes,
great.
vision.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say just get out there, because whatever the fear that you have is, it's not going to be as bad when you actually go
Yeah.
through it. So if you have to go to a birthday party and you're going to run into all your old friends or your ex, just go. If it's a matter of going out to dinner by yourself, just do it, get it over with. You're going to realize it's not so bad. And think to yourself, what are the facets in your life that are negative right now, and get them out. Get them out and start getting engaged with things that make you happy.
Right.
Start small and then work your way up from there.
Change the connections in your brain. If you do
Yeah.
positive things every
That's
day and every week, your brain will think differently and you will change.
Yeah, and if you don't know what makes you happy yet, it's a perfect time
Yeah.
to start trying
You'll
stuff.
figure it out real fast.
Yeah, if you don't like it, don't do it
Yeah.
again, and then
Yeah.
try something else.
That's
But
right.
it's sort of
Does this
perfect
bring
time
me
to try.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
that
does this
question.
feel good? No, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Does it feel good? Yes, do more of that.
And get rid of your things. Get rid of things that you don't like, of your
Yeah.
belongings
That's
that bring bad feelings, and only keep things that bring you joy.
Yeah.
And I think for people that are watching, if there are things that you've done that helped you along through the course of divorce, let us know.
Yeah.
Right?
put
I
it in
mean,
the
we
comments.
want to hear what you have to say, and what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, and we'll go ahead and we'll share that information with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I would say just have fun with yourself. Like, don't take yourself so seriously, and just expect you're going to make mistakes and welcome them,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
kind of fun once you stop being so afraid of them.
That's right.
It's kind of fun to laugh at yourself. So.
Like we're going to do when we watch this video.
Yeah.
They're like, what did I do with my hand?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you
Yeah.
all for
Thank you
being
so
here
much.
to do this. I
Yeah,
love,
this was
yeah,
great.
I love, we all have such unique stories and your gap year and just everything that we've all done. So, appreciate you all being here.
Thanks, that was fun.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you for tuning in, everybody, and we
Yeah.
will see you next week.
Jump into the
Take
cold
care.
water.
Bye.
Yep.
Just do it.
Do it.